The United States Constitution, produced in Philadelphia in 1787, has become perhaps the most durable governing document in world history. In fact, it is the model of constitutions for scores of nations around the world. But did you realize the first step in creating that document began off the shores of Cape Cod about 150 years earlier, when the Pilgrims created the Mayflower Compact, an agreement for self-government under God. They actually began the process that culminated in America's two key founding documents, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And it all began with the Pilgrims before they even disembarked from the Mayflower.
Since they were sailing to the northern parts of Virginia, they realized they had been blown off course. It turns out they were some 250 miles off course. But their attempts to sail south were completely hindered by dangerous shoals along the coast. They interpreted this as the hand of God guiding them to stay there. So they stayed in Cape Cod and landed on the Provincetown tip. For the next several weeks, they would explore the coast of Cape Cod, looking for a place to settle down. However, they had to clear something up first before they set a foot on the new land. They had to stifle a potential mutiny before it happened.
When the Mayflower Compact was written, November 11, 1620, on board the Mayflower itself, it was written in order to stop a mutiny, a potential mutiny, where some of the ones who were not part of the church said, hey, we'll do what we want to do.
Thus, before disembarking, the Pilgrims ended up making world history by writing up what Winston Churchill called one of the remarkable documents in history. It was a key forerunner to the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. It was the Mayflower Compact.
In the name of God, Amen. We whose names are underwritten, the loyal subjects of our dread sovereign Lord, King James, having undertaken for the glory of God and advancement of the Christian faith and the honor of our king and country, a voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia, do by these present, solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and one of another, covenant and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic, for our better ordering and preservation and furtherance of the ends aforesaid. The Mayflower Compact.
They do something unique. They create their own government. They call it the Mayflower Compact. We, in the presence of God, covenant ourselves together to form a civil body politic, to enact just and equal laws as shall be thought most meet or necessary, unto which we promise all due submission. Simple, revolutionary. It was a polarity change in world government. Instead of top-down, ruled by these kings that keep getting more and more powerful, it's bottom-up. It's the people themselves deciding what laws they're going to pass and agreeing to submit to them. It was a polarity change in world government.
And yet the Mayflower Compact, when it was written, it deals with both converted and unconverted. It deals with believers and unbelievers as equals before the law. This is way ahead of their time. This is where John Robinson taught them to be tolerant toward other people, to be respectful of other people, even if you disagree. And this laid a very important seed in America.
In the cabin of the Mayflower, humanity recovered its rights and instituted government on the basis of equal laws, enacted by all the people for the general good. George Bancroft.
They put the building blocks down for the writing of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Those building blocks came from the Pilgrims, who built a civil government on biblical law. The only way you can build a civil government.
I believe the Bible played a huge role in the founding of our country. One of the things we do in teaching our children, especially the curriculum that we recommend to families, you look at it from a point of integrating everything, from the Pilgrims to the Puritans, from Frederick Douglass to Susan King Taylor to Booker T. Washington, to all of these people who have made this country the great country that it is.
To the Pilgrims, the Mayflower Compact was nothing new. It embodied the democratic principles the Pilgrim congregation had been practicing all along since they had secretly formed a congregation many years ago. Before they had even left the Old World, their pastor, John Robinson, had written them a letter for guidance upon arriving in the New World.
Lastly, whereas you are to become a body politic, using amongst yourselves civil government, and are not furnished with any persons of special eminence above the rest, to be chosen by you into office of government. John Robinson.
John Robinson is probably the most important pilgrim who never came to America, in the sense that he was the pilgrim pastor, and he had this great heart for the Lord, and he had this great heart to be able to worship in a way they thought was biblical. And opportunity came after a lot of prayer, after solemn assemblies, and a decision to go to America. And it was Robinson who was really behind it. And the great irony is, he didn't get to go.
Pastor John Robinson had every intention to come to America, but he died in 1625 before he had the opportunity. The Mayflower Compact was based on democratic principles he had taught them so well.
The Pilgrims themselves, when they set up their own church government, set it up so that the people would vote for the pastor. They would actually vote in the pastor. The cornerstone of what the Pilgrims believed and why they elected their own pastors and would eventually extend that to electing their own civil magistrates was their idea that self-government was so important.
The Mayflower Compact of 1620 was the first of about 100 or so biblically based documents created by the Pilgrims, the Puritans, the Quakers, and other nonconformist Christians in British North America. These written agreements for self-government under God were patterned after the biblical concept of covenant, and these charters and covenants paved the way ultimately for the Declaration of Independence in 1776 and the Constitution in 1787. Thus, as Christian author Dr. Os Guinness once put it, the biblical concept of covenant gave rise to the U.S. Constitution. That is not a bad legacy for a weary band of sojourners, the Pilgrims, who just wanted to worship Jesus according to the Bible. For Providence Forum, I'm Jerry Newcombe.